This El Paso History TV program is underwritten in part by the Hunt Family Foundation, an El Paso charitable trust that supports our local community, with the support of the City of El Paso's Museums and Cultural Affairs Department, and by the Pioneer Association of El Paso, Texas.
The year was 1881 when the first trains arrived in El Paso, along with them bringing freight, people, and goods, changing this dusty little adobe community forever. It was with whistles blowing and bells clanging that the sleepy village on the banks of the Rio Grande came to life. By 1883, tracks from the west, east, north, and south from Mexico met in El Paso, making El Paso the most connected place in the Old West.
The railroads opened the El Paso area to immigration and outside markets. They stimulated mining, farming, and cattle ranching. Many businesses and industries benefited from the arrival of the railroads.
The railroads brought not only goods and services, but a breed of willing and hardy pioneers. Railroad workers were among the first to buy land, build homes, raise families, and build their communities. As 5 railroads built into El Paso starting in 1881, they each built their own passenger and freight terminals around downtown El Paso. This became confusing for passengers making connections, and freight also needed to be hauled across downtown at times. So to handle the increasing passenger and freight traffic, the city and the railroad collaborated and hired world-famous architect Daniel Burnham to design the Union Depot. All kinds of people came to El Paso with the railroads in the 1880s, including those that robbed trains.
It's a robbery! Get your hands up!
This reenactment was on a real 1904 steam locomotive of an 1887 train robbery just east of El Paso, where the original robbers blew up a mail car, only to get arrested or killed by gunfire. Locomotive 3420 ran through El Paso for many years and is now on exhibit by the El Paso Railroad and Transportation Museum. They host an annual open house with tours of the engine and caboose. Steam engines once came through El Paso many times a day, including locomotive number 1, now on display at the El Paso Visitor Center in downtown El Paso. It took an unusual trip in 2002 when it went 60 miles per hour, escorted down Interstate 10 on its way for a major overhaul. Once all of its parts were scrubbed, replaced, or repainted, it once again headed down an El Paso street to its current home. In its heyday, locomotive number 1 worked in Bisbee, Arizona to haul copper ore to larger trains headed to El Paso smelters. A few years ago, the Smithsonian Museum wanted to buy locomotive number 1 to display it in Washington, D.C. El Paso citizens rallied and kept the locomotive in El Paso, and it's now on display downtown. I'm Bernie Sargent for El Paso History TV on ABC7.
This El Paso History TV program is underwritten in part by the Hunt Family Foundation, an El Paso charitable trust that supports our local community, with the support of the City of El Paso's Museums and Cultural Affairs Department, and by the Pioneer Association of El Paso, Texas.